Okay, so this is a random object I've quickly whipped up in Blender. Just gonna change the material name to something a little bit more useful, which may or may not work. So here we are, I've changed it to material name. Basically we're gonna add in an image file, TGA file from another project, just a black metal file I believe, just to give us something to use, because the game does not like assets without a texture at all. So as you can see, we've got the folder structure here, which is from the Ingo zip file. I'll be going in a second to do this bit. Yep, so we're back in here, just going to quickly UV unwrap this, and then we'll be exporting it as an FBX object. So there's a couple of things we have to remember while we're exporting as an FBX, which is basically we want the mesh and a couple of other bits. Here we are, I deleted the object instead of the light and the camera. Doing really well so far. So we want the empty, the mesh, the other, any custom properties, the path I'm putting to copy so that it copies the textures into the FBX folder. Apply and transform. You can see here I've already got the FBX in my recents, but it's basically lives pretty much in the same place as the staging folder. You can set this anywhere, and you can change your config for the model editor to point to any folder you want. It was important there for the file name that whatever you want to call it, _LOD0, so that the model editor can actually see it. So you'll see over there in the right hand top window I've got loads of LOD zeros, and you can see in here importing test LOD0.fbx. That's imported the model, and then it's just a case of going through and finding the texture. I believe on this one I've already moved it into the folder, which I have for the folder structure. We'll see the folder structure in a second, and you can just about see it already behind the model editor. So once we've imported it, we hit save, and it's going to save out all that lovely data for the mesh, the material, etc. into the folder structure for the mod. So you'll see it's created FBX import folders for these. I don't particularly want to put them in there, so I'm going to move everything into asset folders. For the model file, I'm just going to copy and paste it into a new document in there and save it as test asset.mdl. So this is an MDL file for the model, and the material is an MTL file for material. The mesh is pretty much, standard. It's whatever you're referencing in the children there. So mesh equals FBX import cube underscore LOD, whatever that was. We can change the name of it as long as it matches what you're putting into the model file. And the msh.blob need to be named the same thing. I'm not going to go into different levels of detail because that's a little bit too advanced for what I want to do with this, but you can see that I've moved everything into asset folders, and then basically we have just the one model file now, and you can see I'm renaming the materials to black.mtl to match what I've got further over. I'm not going to rename the MSH files, the mesh files, but I am going to rename the folder it's into the asset folder, and I'm going to do the same thing in a second with the material to make it point to the asset/black folder, black MTL folder there. So everything is now in there. I'm not going to bother with the transforms because I don't want to do any resizing at this point, and this is the important one for you guys. This is the .con file, so I'm going to rename it to test asset just so that everything kind of makes sense. The name of the mod, obviously test asset. Description, I'm just going to fill in the description. A description. I've just noticed that I didn't spell that right for the entire thing. Oh well. Categories, I'm just going to put it in NT so it goes in my standard category. So these params basically you can go on the wiki, the Transport Fever 2 wiki page, which will list these out. Here we are. It's under construction basics on the wiki, and if you scroll down a bit, you will see, here we are, we've got a section for parameters, and it gives you examples of all the different parameter types. So I think for this one I could have gone with buttons, but I actually chose to go with the slider. Basically, so we'll just copy and paste that inside this param section here, and then we're just going to change a few of the text around. So the key is called size. We're going to reference that later on. The name is what shows in the in-game UI, and we're going to give it 3 options of big, medium, and small, and then delete the rest of them afterwards that we don't need. And these do need the trailing comma. Otherwise it will cause an in-game error, a Loire error. And the tooltip can be anything you want, so I'm just going to write a tooltip. Cool, do a bit of tidying up for some spacing, because we don't like too many spaces. And then inside the update function, we've got all the rest of it, and that top bit, the asset type, we can go to the wiki again, into construction types, and we can see all the different types. So for a water depot, use water_depot. This is an asset default because it's a freestanding asset, it doesn't need to snap to anything. So we've got the description and the name up there, which we can edit, and the update function has the local result, which is where we're going to put everything into, and result.models, and we're going to return that result table. So if the parameter is 0, it's always the first one in your list of values in the param. So we've changed that to line 31, if params.size. So that's if params. Whatever the key we used on line 17, which happened to be size. If it's 0, then it's the first one, which in this instance is big. I'm just going to change this to the assets folder so that it's pointing to the right place, and the name of our model file, so test asset.mdl. We're going to move the transform down and just do a bit of tidying up here so it looks a little bit easier to read, and that transform we're going to change in a second. So here I could have done an else if I thought it'd be easier for you guys to see if we just put it into straight blocks. So obviously we're going to have a 2 and a 1 for the medium and the small, or the small and medium. Yeah, I'm just writing here that we could have used an else if, but to show it's much easier to just do it in straight blocks like I've done. Either way is correct. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with this. Obviously, if I had done it as an else if statement, it would have made it slightly easier to read, because you would have seen that it's this, or this. So here I'm changing the 1 parameters for the first 3 parameters, which are the X, Y, and Z sizing parameters. So we're going for 1.5, 1.5, and 1.5. There is a fantastic tool on transportfever.net, which is the transform calculator for if you want to be spinning things around, changing rotation on things. I highly suggest you to use that and have a play around with it. So here we're pasting in the name and the description, making sure that we have our trailing comma after them, into the main mod.lua file. So this is the one which tells the list of mods, basically what it is. I'm just doing a bit of reformatting again here because I need it all to line up so I can actually read what's going on. And I believe that I may change the name in a second to something a little bit nicer to read. Cool, so that's all in there. That means that our list, which we'll see in a little bit, will look a bit nicer. And yeah, over here we have the showing the kind of where it is in the staging area. So the staging area is there, and the location of the staging area will be different if you're on Windows. Look at the wiki, it will basically tell you where to look for it. So here I am. I'm loading up Steam, and it did an update which took forever for Transport Fever, so I cut that bit out. And hopefully, here we go. Yeah, it's the first time I've run it since the summer update. So, and we're going to free game, clicking next, and this settings here. So this is what was described in the mod.loir file. So there is all sorts of useful stuff in there, but this is the data which we described there. That file on the right hand side is the workshop preview file, I believe. So then we hit start game and wait for it to load, which doesn't take too long because we're not loading many mods at all. So we just give it a couple of seconds. I could have cut this out, but it was pretty quick to load today. Not too much longer, and there we go. I think I may have been messing around doing something on the other screen at this point anyway. I was going to point towards skipping collision and things. I realised that might be a little bit too advanced for this, so I think I eventually didn't bother with it. Okay, so here we are in game, and if we go down to the assets menu, which I'll do in a second, you can see under assets we've got a lovely blue square because I haven't set a texture for the category or for the model itself. But here we are, we're on the biggest size of it. As I say, I didn't mess around with anything kind of size-wise that I didn't show you, so you can see that changing that slider changes which model version we're loading, and the model version has the transform. So the three different transforms with the same model file. The big, the small and the medium, and obviously if we place them, there's the small version and there's the big version. And yeah, so as you see there, the only difference is the transforms. The model is exactly the same for all three, and that param is just running the slider, which is passing into the update function the parameter, and then we're checking it and changing the transform as we need to. So you saw there it didn't lie particularly flat on the ground. That's basically because we haven't bothered dealing with any edge types, terrain alignments or any of that kind of stuff. We could do the ground faces, we could do the terrain alignments, we could have it in the colliders, all the rest of that good stuff. It's all in the wiki. Just stick it in and have a play around, basically. Okay, so I think that's it from me.